Hi folks, Mr. Ackerman here. Thanks for watching. I know you're wondering, what am I doing in the back of a car? So let me address that first. I've taken my daughter to a birthday party, which is at an indoor playground. It is crazy noisy in there. There's kids running everywhere, and this is the only quiet place I have. So now that you understand that, let's talk about the topic of this video. The point is to go over the basic steps when we're editing. And the photo I'm going to edit is a scene that you're all familiar with. It's the front of our school. Since you know what this looks like, because you've been there before, keep that in your mind as I go through making the changes that you're about to see. I'm going to show you how to turn this kind of photo, which is directly out of camera, into something more like this, which, in my opinion, is still accurate. It's still true to real life, but it's got a little bit more interesting colors and contrast and brightness levels in various regions. So to help you see how I got there, I'm going to go here. I'm going to reset all of my settings and we're going to get started. Quick note before we begin. I'm using an app called Adobe Camera Raw, which is on the desktop or laptop, and it's where I edit photos. You'll notice that the adjustment sliders are the same ones you see in Photoshop Express on your phone or just the basic editing app that came with your phone. Doesn't matter where you do this. The point is to have a reason for moving the sliders one way or another and to know what they do so that you can achieve your vision for a certain scene. First up, cropping. We go here and we decide if we want to crop in on the scene in any way or we want to leave it as is. We might rotate as well to make things that are upright, truly upright, or sometimes to just upend everything and change it completely. I think I like this rotation. I might like to drag in one of the sides, but that also drags in the tops and bottoms. So if you want to drag one side without the others coming along with it, there's usually a button that looks like a lock. You unlock the aspect ratio, as it's called, and now you can make these changes independently. You decide how you want your photo to look, hit enter when you're done, and then move on. Next step, the temperature or the it's often called the color temperature or the warmth or the coolness of the photo. If you move to the right, things get a little bit warmer. If you move to the left, they get cooler. Warmth is like more yellowy and orangey, and cooler is more bluish. I'm pretty happy with where the photo is to begin with. I might move slightly to the right, a little bit warmer, just to invite the viewer in a tiny bit more. But other than that, I'm going to leave this. I don't want to change anything. Next up, exposure. If your photo is altogether too dark, move to the right and brighten it. If it's altogether too bright, move to the left and darken it. I like darkening it because of what it does to the sky, but not what it does to the doorway. And I like brightening it because of what it does to the doorway, but not what it does to the sky. So this photo is not a good candidate for overall exposure changes. I'm going to leave that at 0 and instead target each region individually. The sky is very bright. Those are highlights. I want to bring them down. Go to the highlight slider, slide it to the left, and you get the effect you want in the sky without darkening other areas that are already dark, such as the doors. The doors are in shadow. So we go to the shadow slider, we move it to the right, and they get brighter. You can now see what's happening in there, but we leave the sky alone. I like the changes already. Every app that you're using has some sort of before and after feature or undo, redo. With this app, it's a little icon that looks like an eye. It's the visibility toggle on off switch. If you click it, you get to see what happens without any of the changes and then with. I like where we're going with this. The photo's becoming more interesting as I reveal more details through my changes. Next up is the white and black slider. I'm going to skip those over for now. You can experiment with them if you want, but we can achieve our goals without touching them, and I want to keep this simple. Next up, go to clarity and also look back at contrast. These are similar sliders. Contrast, watch what it does when we move to the right. It kind of adds a little bit of punch to the photo, but you don't want to go too far or things get really, really dark in some areas, and that's no good. Maybe 15, 20, some odd number like that on the point scale here will be good. And you can do the same with clarity and see if you like that. Usually a little bit of both gives the photo a nice look. And then you can move on to texture. If you zoom in, which can either be through a button like this, or just using your finger and thumb to move the screen to pinch, or Control or Command plus, you can zoom in a bit and watch what texture does. Watch the bricks, the vine leaves, and the little door handles and hinges when I move the texture to the right. You see that change? It just made them a little more defined. Don't go too far or they start to look kind of weird, but maybe somewhere around 20 or 30 points is nice. And then zoom back out and see if you like what you've done. Last stop in this part of the app is vibrance and saturation. This is going to concentrate the colors, and you have to be careful. If you go too far, they look like they've just become unrealistic, which is not our goal here. Saturation is a very, very heavy-handed slider. I often don't use it and leave it at 0, but the one right above it, Vibrance, gives you a little bit more wiggle room, and you can add some of the same kind of concentration without going over the top, maybe like this. And at this point, let's do a before and after. So here's before, and there's after. I like the way this photo has turned out. I actually think that all the changes combined made it a little bit darker than I might like. So now I'm going to go to the exposure and brighten that a tiny, tiny bit. Maybe add in a tiny bit more contrast, possibly a bit of clarity. Check it now, before and after. I'm really liking where this has gone. One last thing, which I'm not going to use on this photo, but often you will use it, especially in people photos. That's under Effects, and it's called vignetting. If you remember, vignetting is darkening the edges to concentrate viewer attention into the middle. In a landscape photo, this is unusual. We don't normally do that because it doesn't look that way in real life, although it can benefit from it. In a people photo, it's often an interesting effect, but not if you go too far like this. Only if you do it in a way that's so subtle that it's there, but no one's really that aware of it. Maybe like a few points, and you can check the before and after to see that I've barely done anything. You might argue, why even bother? Just leave this at 0 and move on. And so that's what we're going to do. And that's it. Before and after. I hope you like the changes. I hope you think that they are fairly realistic while adding some visual interest, because that was my goal. If you disagree or you have another way, then let me know in class. I'll be happy to chat with you about that. Thanks for watching. Happy editing and have a great day. Bye for now.